Hello everybody. Today we discuss demand analysis. This is an important concept relevant to consumers' equilibrium and therefore understanding demand factors very crucial to understanding how the equilibrium of the consumer works out to be. Demand for a good or a service is defined as that quantity of good or service that a consumer is willing to pay for and for which he has the ability to pay for. Now, if the price of a commodity moves up, then there is less of demand. If the price of a commodity moves down, there is more of demand. This is an inverse relationship between demand and price. Therefore, there is a negative slope to the demand curve. The price and demand schedule can be worked out in very simple terms. So as the price increases, demand starts declining. Now, the law of demand therefore says that ceteris paribus, that is, all other things remaining the same. If the price of a product falls, there will be greater demand for that because the price has fallen. Now, this price effect is a composition of two important effects. One, the income effect, the other substitution effect. By income effect, I mean that whenever there is a rise in the price, my real income comes down, my purchasing power comes down. If supposing there is an increase in the price of petrol, I feel I cannot buy the same quantum of petrol as before. My real income has come down. If I want to fill in the same quantum of petrol in my scooter, then I have to pay a little less somewhere else. So an income effect is actually a purchasing power reduction or increase. A substitution effect, on the other hand, is a substitution of the product. If coffee has become cheaper, and I like coffee, I would rather prefer to go to coffee from tea because now coffee is less expensive. So if the price is lowered, people move from a substitute to the cheaper good. That's why it's called a substitution effect. What are the determinants other than price of demand? The price of substitutes we saw. The price of complements is very important. Petrol and cars. If the price of one falls, demand for the other increases. If the price of petrol increases, then the demand for cars may come down. So prices of complements are important. Levels of consumers' income. The demand for products by a rich man are not the same as from a lower income group. So if the consumer's income changes, there is likely to be a change in the demand patterns. Consumers' tastes and preferences matter. So if the consumer likes a particular product in a particular manner, then he is willing to pay a little more for that. So you have got a herbal toothpaste. It may be charged a little more, then you are willing to pay that little because you feel that's better for your teeth. Or Pepsodent may have an ingredient which satisfies your need for your toothache or your gums, and therefore Pepsodent may charge a little more. That's consumers. And then price expectations. If I expect the prices to fall tomorrow, I will not buy today because I feel I can buy it better tomorrow. If I expect the prices to rise tomorrow, then I'll rush to buy even if the prices are high today, but it will be higher tomorrow. It may be high today. So price expectations matter. And lastly, we have advertisements. If you have got a leading cricketer advertising for chocolates, it is because of the fact that the advertisement is appealing to the young people who are chocolate eaters. So you would like to look at the concept of a shift in demand as against a movement along the demand curve. A shift in demand portrays that the demand curve moves to the right or moves to the left. Take the case of the medical equipments like masks or protective personal equipment, suddenly it went up. Whatever be the price, the demand went up. And that is because Corona impacted on all of us. We started using masks, prices became irrelevant, our protective nature became, so the demand curve shifted for medical equipments to the right, which are medical equipments or paracetamol even, people started moving to the right. Similarly, even leisure industry suffered in the COVID times, and as an impact, the demand curve shifted to the left side. Hotel industry closed down virtually, so you had the demand curve shift to the left. So movements up towards the right or movements down towards the left are indicative of changes in the Setiru-Paribu factors. Now, when is a consumer in equilibrium? A consumer is in equilibrium if he's satisfied, maximum. He's satisfied that the money he has spent wisely. He has optimally allocated that expenditure. He feels happy with the quantum of goods he has bought with the limited income. A happy man, he has spent on good X, good Y, and good Z in measures which he feels has satisfied his ability to satisfy himself. Now, this is dependent on the law of diminishing marginal utility, which backs up the law of demand. Utility is the ability of a commodity to satisfy a customer. A util is a measure that some of the economists used. Now, total utility is the satisfaction that comes out of all of the units of a product being, all of the units being used or consumed. So, if I eat 5 apples, total utility for me is the first apple, second apple, third apple, fourth apple, sum of all the 5 apples, utility. Now, marginal utility is the utility of the last unit I consumed. So, it is a satisfaction obtained from consuming the additional unit. So, the marginal utility of the 5th unit is different from the marginal utility of the 4th unit, is different from the 3rd unit, is different from the 2nd unit, and the highest when it comes to the 1st unit. Now, if I am eating, I am hungry, and I get an apple to eat, my marginal utility of that first apple is extremely high. But then, with every successive unit, it keeps on declining. So, marginal utility will decline with the consumption of each unit, successive units. It might go even into negative territory. I might feel that this is dissatisfying. Now, remember that the relationship between total utility and marginal utility is that the total utility will increase till such time as the marginal utility declines into negative territory. Because until then, there is some addition, even if at a declining rate, to the marginal utility. So that means that the law of demand is backed up by the operation of the law of diminishing marginal. When a consumer buys an additional unit, he is less satisfied than he bought the previous unit. So a consumer always compares the marginal utility of a good with the price he pays for it. And with each successive consumption, the satisfaction level comes down, and therefore he is not willing to pay that price for the additional unit. So this takes us to the law of equimarginal utility, which says that the consumer will always try to maximize his utility by spreading his income among his consumption items. So marginal utility of 1 divided by the price of 1 is the denominator of the marginal utility of expenditure that he is willing. So every marginal utility is measured in terms of the marginal utility derived per unit of expenditure. He wants to make it the same for all commodities. Let's take an example. Let's look at this case where my income is 14. I've got 7 units. I like X product more than Y product. So the marginal utility is slightly more. Now, I like to consume more of X than Y. So if I have got a fixed income at 14, I would ideally equate my marginal utility. My price is 2. So I am having a marginal utility of 8, and then 4, that leaves me 4 into 2 leaves me with only 6, and that means that I will consume 3 units, and that is important for me to understand. The marginal utility derived by the consumer from X and Y is designated here. The consumer will consume 4 of X and 3 of Y so that the conditions are well satisfied. This is on the equimarginal principle. We now come to the indifference curve. It shows that the customer is used to being indifferent to any combinations when it comes to making a choice between two commodities. An indifference curve is a locus of points. Each point represents a different combination of two goods. Each point represents a different combination of two goods, but both provide the same level of utility to the consumer, and that is why it is important for us to know the consumer is indifferent between these two combinations. So indifference curves are important for us to study. Now there are 4 properties we look to in indifference curves. One is that the indifference curves are downward sloping. This is because the level of for the same level of utility, if the demand of one commodity does increase, then the demand for the second commodity will come down. The second is that it will be convex to the origin, because no two commodities are perfect substitutes. The third one is that indifference curves do not intersect with each other, because the same combination of goods cannot yield two different levels of utility. Indifference curves can never cut each other. And finally, the higher indifference curve signifies a higher level of utility. The higher level can be derived only when the quantity demanded is increased, either for one good or for both goods. So these are the properties of the indifference curve. My final slide is with regard to the exceptions to the law of demand. The law of demand applies for normal goods. But then take the case of an inferior good, like you are looking at a coarse material, like a lower category of grains, or you are looking at a product like potatoes, a staple food in some of the Western countries. Bajra, which is a food for the lower income groups in India, for example. If the prices of bajra go up, or if the prices of potatoes go up, people will try to buy more of these because they cannot do without it. They will cut down on the consumption of meat or of other items. If he's a vegetarian, it might be other vegetable items which he might cut down. But he would like to have bajra. And that is important, that defense goods or inferior goods may be demanded more if the price tends to go up, because that's an essential commodity according to them. For luxury goods, customers of luxury goods are insensitive to prices. You know the reasons why. People will like to buy Omega watch or Rolex watches because they feel that these are status symbols. Obsolete goods, if the technology has turned separate and you are not able to sell on that old technology because nobody wants old technology. So therefore, obsolete goods will have no, even if you slash the prices, nobody will buy them. Speculative goods, if you expect Tata Steel's shares prices to go up, you will buy today, even even if the prices are high, because you expect it to go even higher. So speculative goods are an example of an exception to the law of demand. Last but not the least is the goods which are likely to be in shortage. If you expect that there will be limited quantities or that the future availability will be affected, supposing you get to know that there will be a lockdown, and then you go and immediately buy all the things, and then somebody tells you that there will be a shortage of this category rice, you will buy whatever be the price, you will buy because it is likely to be in shortage. And these are some of the exceptions to the law of demand. Thank you so much.